She thought she was texting her sister. Instead, she accidentally sent her new address to a complete stranger, a lonely millionaire CEO, who would show up at her door the very next morning with flowers, chocolates, and a hunger for something real. Jasmine Carter never imagined that one wrong digit would lead to the kind of love that makes you choose between your heart and everyone's approval. But when his ice-cold stepmother calls her a gold digger at a family dinner that goes catastrophically wrong, and her jealous ex threatens to destroy everything they're building, Jasmine has to decide, is love enough to bridge two completely different worlds? What happens next will make you believe in fate, second chances, and the power of showing up when it matters most. If you're watching this, subscribe and tell me in the comments, have you ever made a mistake that turned out to be the best thing that ever happened to you? Because this story proves that sometimes the wrong number is exactly right. Jasmine Carter dropped the last cardboard box onto her new living room floor and groaned. Her back ached. Her arms felt like jelly. Moving was supposed to be exciting, but right now, it just felt exhausting. She wiped sweat from her forehead and looked around the small apartment. Boxes everywhere. A couch that didn't quite fit the space. Windows that let in the golden evening light, making everything look softer than it really was. Home, sweet home, she muttered to herself. At 27, this was her first place without a roommate she didn't choose. Maya would move in next week, but for now, it was just Jasmine and a mountain of unpacked boxes. She'd spent the whole day carrying furniture up 2 flights of stairs. Her muscles screamed in protest. Her phone sat on the kitchen counter. She grabbed it and collapsed onto the couch, ignoring the cloud of dust that puffed up around her. She needed to tell someone she'd made it, that she'd survived the move. She scrolled to her sister's name and started typing. Finally moved in. New address is 2847 Maple Street, Apt 3B. Come visit soon. Miss you already. She hit send without checking. Her eyes were too tired to focus. The phone slipped from her hand onto the couch cushion beside her. I'll unpack tomorrow, she whispered to the empty room. Within seconds, she was asleep. 30 blocks away, Ethan Hale stood at the window of his penthouse apartment. The city stretched out below him, thousands of lights twinkling in the darkness. He held a glass of whiskey he hadn't touched. His phone buzzed. He glanced at it, expecting another work email. Instead, he saw a message from an unknown number. Finally moved in. New address is 2847 Maple Street, Apt 3B. Come visit soon. Miss you already. Ethan frowned. Wrong number, obviously. He should delete it. But something made him pause. Miss you already. 3 simple words. They hit him harder than they should have. When was the last time someone had missed him? Really missed him? Not his money, or his connections, or what he could do for them. He stared at the message for a long moment. Then he looked back out at the city, at all those lights, and wondered if the person who sent this text was out there somewhere, surrounded by boxes, starting fresh, excited about a future that felt full of possibility. He couldn't remember the last time he'd felt that way. His finger hovered over the delete button. He didn't press it. Instead, he saved the number and set his phone down. He told himself he'd delete it in the morning, that this moment of weakness would pass. But as he finally took a sip of his whiskey, he couldn't stop thinking about that address. 2847 Maple Street, Apt 3B. The unexpected guest morning sunlight poured through Jasmine's new windows, bright and unforgiving. She blinked awake on the couch, her neck stiff from the awkward angle she'd slept in. Oh no, she groaned, stretching her arms above her head. The apartment looked even worse in daylight. Boxes stacked haphazardly, clothes draped over furniture. Her small kitchen table buried under dishes that needed to be put away. She dragged herself to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. Today she'd tackle the unpacking. Maybe she'd even make the place feel like home. A knock echoed through the apartment. Jasmine froze. Who would visit this early? Maya wasn't supposed to arrive until next week. Her sister lived 3 hours away. Another knock. Softer this time, uncertain. She padded to the door in her rumpled pajamas and peeked through the peephole. A man stood in the hallway, tall, white, wearing an expensive-looking suit that seemed completely out of place in her modest building. He held a bouquet of flowers in one hand and a small paper bag in the other. Jasmine's heart started to race. This had to be a mistake, or a prank, or something worse. She cracked the door open, keeping the chain lock engaged. "Can I help you?" Her voice came out sharp, suspicious. The man looked up and she saw his face clearly for the first time. Mid-30s maybe, dark hair styled neatly, blue eyes that seemed tired despite the early hour. He didn't look dangerous. He looked nervous. Are you? He paused, suddenly seeming to realize he didn't know her name. Did you just move to 2847 Maple Street? Apartment 3B? Jasmine's stomach dropped. How do you know that? You texted me yesterday evening. He held up his phone, showing her the message. She stared at the screen. Those were her words, but she'd sent them to her sister, not to some random stranger in a fancy suit. Oh my God! The realization hit her like a punch. I sent it to the wrong number. I think so, yes. He lowered the phone, looking almost embarrassed. I probably should have just told you about the mistake, but I thought... He trailed off, seeming to struggle with what to say next. You thought what? Jasmine kept her voice flat, wary. I thought you sounded happy. About the move, and I... He stopped again, then lifted the flowers slightly. I don't know, I thought I'd come congratulate you. Is that completely insane? Jasmine wanted to say yes. Yes, it was completely insane. Normal people didn't show up at strangers' doors with flowers because of a wrong number text. Normal people sent a quick message saying, "Hey, wrong number," and moved on with their lives. But something about the way he stood there, looking uncomfortable and out of place, made her hesitate. What's in the bag? She asked. He glanced down as if he'd forgotten he was holding it. Chocolates, gourmet ones. I wasn't sure what you'd like, so I got a variety box. You brought me chocolates? Yes, because I sent you my address by mistake. When you put it that way, it sounds much worse than I intended. Despite herself, Jasmine felt the corner of her mouth twitch. This was absurd. The whole situation was absolutely ridiculous, but he looked so genuinely awkward standing there, like a kid who'd tried to do something nice and was only now realizing how strange it seemed. She shouldn't let him in. Every safety instinct screamed at her to close the door, maybe call someone, definitely not invite a random stranger into her apartment, but there was something in his eyes, a loneliness that mirrored her own. Against every bit of common sense she possessed, Jasmine unchained the door and opened it wider. Fine, she said. You can come in for coffee, but if you try anything weird, I know how to use pepper spray. That's fair. He stepped inside carefully, like he was entering a museum instead of her cluttered apartment. I'm Ethan, by the way, Ethan Hale. Jasmine Carter. She closed the door and immediately second-guessed her decision. Let me put on real clothes. Don't touch anything. She hurried to her bedroom and threw on jeans and a t-shirt, her mind racing. What was she doing? She'd just let a complete stranger into her home, a stranger who'd tracked down her address and shown up uninvited. But when she came back out, Ethan was still standing exactly where she'd left him, holding the flowers and the bag of chocolates like he wasn't sure what to do with them. He looked so uncomfortable that Jasmine almost laughed. How you can put those on the counter, she said, moving toward her small kitchen. Ethan set the bag down carefully, then laid the flowers beside it. His hands fidgeted at his sides. Coffee? Jasmine asked, pulling out her French press. It was one of the few things she'd unpacked. Please. She filled the kettle and set it on the stove. The silence stretched between them, awkward and heavy. So, Jasmine said finally, do you make a habit of showing up at wrong number addresses? Awkward coffee. Ethan managed a weak smile. This is actually my first time. Lucky me. Jasmine got out 2 mugs and a bag of coffee grounds. What made you think this was a good idea? He was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer, more honest. I don't know. I read your message and I thought about how excited you sounded, about your new place, about starting over. And I realized I couldn't remember the last time I felt that way about anything. Jasmine glanced at him over her shoulder. He was looking down at his hands, not meeting her eyes. So you decided to be creepy instead? She asked, but her tone had lost its edge. I didn't think it through very well, he admitted. I've been alone for a long time. Not physically alone, but... He gestured vaguely. You know. The kettle started to whistle. Jasmine poured the hot water over the coffee grounds and let them steep. She did know. She knew exactly what he meant. She'd been surrounded by people her whole life, family, friends, co-workers. But somehow, she'd still felt isolated, like she was watching everyone else live their lives while she stood on the outside, pressing her nose against the glass. Yeah, she said quietly. I know. They stood in silence while the coffee brewed. Jasmine pressed the plunger down slowly, watching the grounds settle at the bottom. She poured 2 cups and handed one to Ethan. Thank you. He wrapped his hands around the mug, finally looking at her. And I'm sorry for showing up like this. You have every right to throw me out. I probably should. Jasmine took a sip of her coffee. It was too hot and burned her tongue slightly, but she didn't care. But you brought flowers and chocolate, so I guess you get a pass. This time. This time? He raised an eyebrow. Don't push your luck. But she was smiling now. Actually smiling. Ethan smiled back, and something in the room shifted. The awkwardness didn't disappear completely, but it softened around the edges. Can I ask you something? Jasmine said. Of course. Why are you really here? He took a long drink of his coffee, buying himself time to think. Honestly, I was lonely. I read your text and I thought, maybe, I don't know. Maybe meeting someone new, someone who didn't know anything about me, might help. Help with what? Feeling human again. The words hung in the air between them. Jasmine studied his face, looking for signs that he was lying or manipulating her. But all she saw was exhaustion and truth. That's the saddest thing I've heard in a while, she said softly. I know. He set his mug down on the counter. I should probably go. This was a mistake. Wait. Jasmine surprised herself. You don't have to leave yet. We can finish our coffee. Ethan looked at her, hope and uncertainty mixing in his expression. Are you sure? No, but I'm doing it anyway. She gestured toward her small living room. Want to sit down? Fair warning, there are boxes everywhere. They moved to the couch, carefully avoiding the stacks of belongings that surrounded them. Ethan sat at one end, Jasmine at the other, both of them holding their coffee mugs like shields. So what do you do? Jasmine asked. For work, I mean. I run a company. Ethan kept his answer vague, and Jasmine noticed but didn't push. It's boring. What about you? I work at a bookstore, and I'm finishing my degree part-time. She felt a little self-conscious saying it. Her life probably seemed small compared to his. It's not fancy, but I like it. Books are better than boardrooms, Ethan said. Trust me. They talked for almost an hour. Small things at first. Favorite movies, worst moving experiences, childhood pets. Nothing too deep or personal. But underneath the casual conversation, something was building. A connection neither of them had expected. Jasmine glanced at the paper bag on her counter. The chocolates. You know, she said, interrupting Ethan mid-story about a disastrous business trip, this isn't a date. He followed her gaze to the bag and laughed. I know. Good. Because I don't date men who show up uninvited at my door. That's a reasonable policy. But, Jasmine hesitated. She couldn't believe what she was about to say. If you wanted to take me to dinner sometime, somewhere public, after I've had time to make sure you're not a serial killer, that might be okay. Ethan's whole face lit up. It transformed him, made him look younger and more vulnerable. Really? Maybe. Possibly. I'm reserving the right to change my mind. Fair enough. He set down his empty mug and stood. I should let you get back to unpacking. Thank you for not calling the police on me. The day's still young, Jasmine said, but she was smiling as she walked him to the door. At the threshold, Ethan turned back. Can I text you? The right number this time? You'd better. He left, and Jasmine closed the door behind him. She leaned against it, her heart beating faster than it should. What had she just done? She looked at the flowers on her counter, at the bag of chocolates she hadn't opened, at the two empty coffee mugs sitting side by side. You're an idiot, Jasmine Carter, she told herself, but she was still smiling. Dinner with a stranger. 3 days later, Jasmine stood in front of her closet in a complete panic. I have nothing to wear, she moaned into her phone. You have plenty to wear, Maya's voice came through the speaker. You're just being dramatic. I'm going to dinner with a man I know nothing about. I think drama is appropriate. Jasmine pulled out a dress and held it up, then immediately put it back. Too formal. Too trying hard. You know his name, and he brought you flowers. That's more than most of the guys you've dated. That's not comforting, Maya, her roommate-to-be laughed. Wear the blue dress, the one with the buttons. It makes you look confident. I don't feel confident. I feel insane. But Jasmine found the blue dress anyway. Maya was right. It did make her look good. Put together without trying too hard. Text me when you get there, Maya said. And if he's weird, fake an emergency, I'll call you. You're the best. I know. Now go knock this man's socks off. Jasmine hung up and finished getting ready. She kept her makeup simple, her hair natural. This was just dinner, just one evening. If it went badly, she never had to see him again. Ethan picked her up at 7. He wore dark jeans and a button-up shirt, the sleeves rolled to his elbows. More casual than the suit from their first meeting. He looked nervous. You look beautiful, he said when she opened the door. You look less stalkerish, Jasmine replied, then immediately regretted it. Sorry, that came out wrong. No, it's fair. He laughed and the tension broke. I promise I'm working on my approach. The restaurant was small and quiet, tucked away on a side street Jasmine had never noticed before. Nothing fancy, just a cozy Italian place with warm lighting and checkered tablecloths. I thought about taking you somewhere expensive, Ethan admitted as they sat down, but that felt like I was trying too hard. This is perfect. And she meant it. The intimate atmosphere felt right, comfortable. They ordered wine and pasta, and the conversation flowed more easily than it had in her apartment. Ethan talked about growing up in the suburbs, about loving books as a kid, about feeling lost after his father died 3 years ago. Jasmine shared stories about her big family, her dreams of opening her own bookstore someday, her struggle to finish her degree while working full-time. Why business? Ethan asked. If you love books, why not literature? Because loving something and making a living from it are different things. Jasmine twirled pasta around her fork. I want to own a bookstore, not just work in one. That means understanding money and management and all the boring stuff. That's smart. Most people just chase the dream without thinking about the practical side. Are you calling me practical? She raised an eyebrow, teasing. I'm calling you impressive. Jasmine felt her cheeks warm. She wasn't used to this. Someone looking at her like she mattered, like her plans and dreams were worth paying attention to. Across the restaurant, she caught sight of a familiar face. Her stomach dropped. Marcus Reed sat at a corner table with another woman, but his eyes were locked on Jasmine. His expression was dark, angry. She looked away quickly, but the damage was done. The easy atmosphere between her and Ethan had shattered. You okay? Ethan asked. Yeah, fine. She forced a smile. Just thought I saw someone I knew. But Marcus kept staring. When Jasmine pulled out her phone to check the time, she saw a new text from him. We need to talk. This isn't over. Her appetite vanished. Jasmine? Ethan reached across the table, his hand hovering near hers but not quite touching. What's wrong? Nothing, really. She put her phone away and tried to focus on Ethan, on this moment, on the fact that she was having a genuinely good time with someone who seemed genuinely interested in her. But Marcus's presence loomed at the edge of her awareness like a storm cloud. They finished dinner, and Ethan drove her home. In the car, the comfortable conversation from earlier felt forced, strained. I had a really nice time, Ethan said when they pulled up in front of her building. Me too. And she had until Marcus showed up. Can I see you again? Jasmine looked at him, at his hopeful expression, at the way he'd barely touched his wine all night because he'd been driving, at how he'd listened to every story she told, like it was the most interesting thing he'd ever heard. Yes, she said. I'd like that. He smiled, and something in her chest loosened. She got out of the car and walked to her door, very aware of Ethan watching to make sure she got inside safely. She waved from the doorway and he drove off. Only then did she pull out her phone and read Marcus's full message. We need to talk. This isn't over. You don't know who you're dealing with, Jasmine. Be careful. She stared at the words for a long moment. Then she climbed the stairs to her apartment, dread settling in her stomach like a stone. Old shadows return. Jasmine slept terribly. She woke up to find 3 more texts from Marcus, each one more insistent than the last. Each one a reminder of why she'd broken up with him 6 months ago. You're making a mistake. Call me. I just want to talk, for your own good. She deleted the messages without responding. Marcus didn't get to control her anymore. She'd spent too long letting his jealousy and manipulation dictate her choices. Not this time. She got ready for work in a fog, her mind split between thoughts of Ethan's smile and Marcus's warnings. By the time she left her apartment, she'd almost convinced herself that everything would be fine. Then she saw Marcus leaning against the building's brick wall. You've got to be kidding me, she muttered. He straightened when he saw her, still handsome in that sharp, predatory way that had attracted her at first, before she'd realized what lived behind those dark eyes. We need to talk. His voice was calm, too calm. I don't think we do. Jasmine tried to walk past him, but he stepped into her path. 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. Marcus, we broke up 6 months ago. You don't get to show up and demand my time. I'm trying to help you. His jaw tightened. That guy you were with last night? Ethan Hale, do you know who he is? Someone I'm getting to know, which is none of your business. He's a millionaire, Jasmine, a CEO. He runs half the tech companies in this city. Marcus moved closer, lowering his voice. What do you think a guy like that wants with someone like you? The words stung more than they should have. Someone like you. Like she wasn't good enough. Like she should be grateful for any attention from a man like Ethan. Get out of my way, Marcus. I'm serious. Guys like him don't date girls from our neighborhood. They use them. For fun, for a distraction. Then they go back to their real lives and their real girlfriends. You don't know anything about him. I know more than you do. Marcus grabbed her arm, not hard enough to hurt, but firm enough to keep her from leaving. I'm trying to protect you. Let go of me. Not until you listen. She asked you to let go. Both Jasmine and Marcus turned. Ethan stood at the corner of the building, his expression harder than Jasmine had seen it. The casual warmth from last night had vanished, replaced by something cold and dangerous. Marcus released Jasmine's arm immediately. This doesn't concern you. Actually, it does. Ethan walked closer, moving until he stood beside Jasmine. Since you're harassing someone I care about. Harassing? Marcus laughed, but it sounded forced. I'm her ex-boyfriend. We're just talking. It didn't look like talking. Ethan's voice stayed level, but there was steel underneath. It looked like you were grabbing her against her will. Marcus's expression turned ugly. Of course. The rich white guy swoops in to save the poor black girl. Is that how this works? Marcus, stop it. Jasmine felt her face burn with anger and embarrassment. No, I want to know. How long before he gets bored, Jasmine? How long before he realizes you're just a bookstore clerk with nothing to offer him? That's enough. Ethan took a step forward, but Jasmine put a hand on his arm. Don't, she said quietly. He's not worth it. For a long moment, the three of them stood in tense silence. Then Marcus shook his head and backed away. Fine, but don't say I didn't warn you. He turned and walked down the street, his shoulders rigid with anger. Jasmine let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. Are you okay? Ethan asked immediately. Yeah, I'm fine, but her hands were shaking. How did you even... Why are you here? I was bringing you breakfast. He held up a paper bag she hadn't noticed before. Pastries from that bakery you mentioned liking. But then I saw him grabbing you and I just... He trailed off, looking uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I should have asked if you wanted my help before I intervened. Jasmine looked at him, really looked at him. He'd driven across town to bring her pastries. He'd stepped in when Marcus wouldn't leave her alone, but he was apologizing for helping, worried that he'd overstepped. Come inside, she said. We should talk. Confessions in the kitchen. Ethan followed Jasmine up the stairs to her apartment, neither of them speaking. The weight of what had just happened hung between them, heavy and uncomfortable. Inside, Jasmine dropped her purse on the couch and turned to face him. You can put the pastries on the counter. He set down the bag next to the box of chocolates he'd brought on his first visit. She still hadn't opened them. The fancy box sat there like a reminder of how this had all started, with a wrong number and an impulsive decision. I'm sorry about Marcus, Jasmine said. He can be intense. He hurt you. He grabbed my arm. It's not the same thing. Jasmine. Ethan's voice was gentle but firm. He hurt you. Maybe not physically, but the way he spoke to you. He stopped, running a hand through his hair. Nobody should talk to you like that. She wanted to argue, to defend herself, or Marcus, or the situation, but she was tired of making excuses. We dated for 2 years, she said instead. He was sweet at first, attentive, but then he got jealous, possessive. He wanted to know where I was every minute, who I was with, what I was doing. She wrapped her arms around herself. I finally ended it 6 months ago. I thought he'd moved on. Clearly he hasn't. No? Jasmine moved to her small kitchen and started making coffee, needing something to do with her hands. He's been texting me, showing up places. I've been ignoring it, hoping he'd get the hint. That's not okay. I know. The admission felt like a weight lifting. I know it's not okay. But what am I supposed to do? Get a restraining order because my ex won't leave me alone? If that's what it takes, yes. Jasmine turned to look at him. Ethan stood with his hands in his pockets, his expression serious. You barely know me, she said quietly. Why do you care so much? Because, he paused, seeming to struggle with what to say next. Because I know what it's like to be alone, to feel like nobody sees you for who you really are. And when I'm with you, I don't feel that way anymore. The honesty in his voice made Jasmine's throat tight. That first morning when you opened the door, Ethan continued, you looked at me like I was crazy, which I was, but you still let me in. You still gave me a chance. Nobody's done that for me in years. I'm sure that's not true. It is. He moved closer, leaning against the counter beside her. I'm surrounded by people all day, people who want things from me. My money, my connections, my name. But you didn't even know who I was. You just saw some awkward guy with flowers and chocolates. Jasmine almost smiled. You were pretty awkward. I really was. The coffee maker beeped. Jasmine poured 2 cups, the familiar ritual calming her nerves. She handed one to Ethan and took a sip of her own. Marcus said you're a millionaire, she said after a moment. A CEO. Ethan tensed. Does that matter? I don't know. Maybe. She set down her mug. You could have told me. Would you have said yes to dinner if you knew? The question hung between them. Jasmine wanted to say of course she would have, that his money didn't matter, but she wasn't sure that was true. "I don't know," she admitted. "That's why I didn't tell you." Ethan's voice was soft. "I wanted you to know me, not my bank account. That's not fair. You're asking me to trust you while you're keeping secrets." "You're right. I'm sorry." He looked down at his coffee. "My father started the company. When he died, I inherited everything. The money, the business, the responsibility. And suddenly everyone wanted something from me. Family members I barely knew came out of nowhere. Friends disappeared or became sycophants. Dating became impossible because I never knew if women wanted me or my wallet." Jasmine softened despite herself. "That sounds lonely." "It is. That's why your text, that wrong number, it felt like fate. Like maybe I could have something real with someone who didn't know anything about my life, who just saw me as a person." He finally met her eyes. "I know how that sounds. Privileged and naive. Rich guy complaining about being too rich." "It doesn't sound naive." Jasmine moved to the box of chocolates, still sealed in its fancy packaging. She picked it up, turning it over in her hands. "It sounds human, yeah?" "Yeah." She set the box back down. "But I'm still not opening these." "Why not?" "Because this isn't a date, remember?" But she was smiling now, the tension between them easing. Ethan smiled back. "Right, not a date." They stood in her tiny kitchen, drinking coffee and not quite looking at each other. Outside, the morning sun grew brighter. The city woke up around them, oblivious to the fragile connection forming in this small apartment. "I have family troubles too," Jasmine said suddenly. "My stepdad never thought I'd amount to anything. He wanted me to skip college, get a regular job, stop dreaming about things that seemed impossible for someone like me. My mom tried to be supportive, but she always sided with him in the end." "Someone like you?" Ethan echoed. "A black girl from a poor neighborhood, with big dreams and no money to make them happen." The words came out bitter. "I proved him wrong. I got scholarships. I work full-time and go to school part-time. It's taking forever, but I'm doing it, on my own." "That's incredible, Jasmine. Marcus used to say the same thing at first, then it became a problem. Why was I always studying? Why couldn't I skip class to see him? Why did I care so much about some stupid degree?" She shook her head. "Sorry, I don't know why I'm telling you all this. Because you need to tell someone." Ethan reached out and lightly touched her hand where it rested on the counter. "And because maybe we're more alike than either of us expected." Jasmine looked at his hand covering hers. Pale skin against dark. Different worlds, different struggles, but the same loneliness underneath. She didn't pull away. "I need to get to work," she said finally. "But thank you. For the pastries. For standing up to Marcus. For being honest with me. Can I drive you?" "You don't have to." "I want to." Something in her chest loosened. "Let go." "Okay. Yeah, that would be nice." They finished their coffee in comfortable silence. Then Jasmine grabbed her purse and they headed down to Ethan's car. As they drove through the morning traffic, Jasmine caught Ethan glancing at her, a small smile playing at his lips. "What?" she asked. "Nothing. Just, I'm glad I sent those flowers to the right address." "The wrong address," Jasmine corrected. "The wrong address, then." She laughed, and for the first time in months, maybe years, she felt something close to hope blooming in her chest. Maybe wrong numbers weren't always mistakes. Maybe sometimes they were exactly what you needed. Jasmine spent the next week floating on air. Ethan texted her every morning, nothing fancy, just simple messages asking how she slept, what she was reading, if she'd thought about him. And she had, more than she wanted to admit. They met for coffee twice, lunch once. Each time felt easier than the last. The awkwardness faded into something comfortable, natural. Maya moved in over the weekend, bringing with her a hurricane of boxes and opinions. "He sounds too good to be true," she said, unpacking kitchen supplies while Jasmine folded laundry on the couch. "He's not too good. He's just nice." "Rich guys aren't just nice, Jazz. They want something." "You sound like Marcus." Maya paused, a stack of plates in her hands. "That's not fair. Marcus is a controlling jerk. I'm your friend who doesn't want to see you hurt." Jasmine sighed. "I know. I'm sorry. But Ethan really is different. He listens when I talk. He asks about my life, my dreams. He doesn't try to change me or fix me." "Then I'm happy for you." Maya set down the plates and came to sit beside her. "Just be careful, okay? Guard your heart a little bit." "I will." But even as Jasmine said it, she knew it was too late. Her heart was already involved, already hoping this could be real. On Tuesday afternoon, Jasmine was shelving books in the back corner of the store when she felt someone watching her. She turned, expecting a customer with a question. Ethan stood at the end of the aisle, holding a paper bag and smiling. "Hi," he said simply. Jasmine's heart did a stupid little flip. "What are you doing here?" "Bringing you lunch." He walked closer, navigating around a cart of new arrivals. "You mentioned you always forget to eat during your shift." "I did. Last Thursday. Over coffee. You said you get so focused on helping customers that you forget you're hungry." The fact that he'd remembered such a small detail made her chest tight. You didn't have to do that. I wanted to." He held up the bag. "Sandwiches from that deli you like, the one with the good turkey club." How did he remember these things? These tiny pieces of her life that most people forgot as soon as she mentioned them. "My break isn't for another hour," Jasmine said, suddenly very aware of her co-worker Sarah watching from the register. "That's fine. I can wait, or leave it with you for later. Whatever works." A customer cleared her throat from the main aisle, an older woman in an expensive coat, looking at Ethan with obvious recognition. "Excuse me," the woman said, her voice carrying. "Aren't you Ethan Hale, the CEO?" Jasmine felt the air shift. Ethan's expression remained pleasant, but something in his eyes dimmed. "Yes, ma'am. Can I help you with something?" "My husband works with your company, Anderson Tech. He's always talking about you." The woman moved closer, clearly excited. "I can't believe you're shopping here, in this little bookstore." "It's a great bookstore," Ethan said evenly. Of course. The woman finally seemed to notice Jasmine. "Oh, are you helping Mr. Hale find something?" "I work here," Jasmine said, her voice flat. "How nice." But the woman's tone suggested it wasn't nice at all. Just ordinary. Expected. The customer wandered off, and Jasmine turned back to Ethan. Something had changed in the last 60 seconds. The easy comfort between them had cracked. "You're the CEO," Jasmine said quietly. "Like a real CEO of a big company. We've talked about this." "No, we talked about you running a company. That's different from being someone customers recognize in random bookstores." She set down the book she'd been holding. "How big is your company, Ethan?" He hesitated. "Pretty big." "How big?" "We employ about 3,000 people in 5 cities." The number hit her like a physical blow. 3,000 people, 5 cities. This wasn't just successful. This was wealthy beyond anything she'd imagined. "Jasmine, I need to get back to work." She moved past him, her mind spinning. "Please, can we talk about this?" "Not here, not now." She couldn't look at him. If she did, she might say something she'd regret. Or worse, she might cry. "Tonight, then? I can pick you up after your shift." "Fine. Okay." She hurried toward the front of the store, leaving Ethan standing alone in the back corner, still holding the bag of sandwiches he'd brought her. Sarah looked up from the register, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Was that really Ethan Hale?" she whispered. "Apparently," Jasmine muttered. "Girl, do you know how rich that man is?" "I'm starting to get the picture." The new conflict. Ethan waited in his car outside the bookstore until Jasmine's shift ended at 6. She saw him through the window and felt her stomach twist. Part of her wanted to walk right past him, to pretend she hadn't seen him and take the bus home. But that was the coward's way out. And Jasmine Carter wasn't a coward. She pushed through the door and walked to his car. He got out immediately. "Can we go somewhere and talk?" he asked. "Your place or mine?" "Yours, if that's okay." They drove in silence. Jasmine stared out the window, watching the city pass by. Expensive shops giving way to modest neighborhoods, his world transitioning into hers. Inside her apartment, Maya took one look at Jasmine's face and grabbed her keys. "I'm going to the gym," she announced. "I'll be back late." "You don't have to." "Yes, I do." Maya squeezed Jasmine's shoulder on her way out, shooting Ethan a warning look. When they were alone, Jasmine finally turned to face him. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "Really tell me. Not just that you run a company, but that you're," she gestured vaguely, "that you're you." "Because I knew this would happen." Ethan stood awkwardly in the middle of her small living room, looking out of place and expensive. "I knew you'd look at me differently once you knew, and I was right." "Of course I look at you differently. You're not just some guy, you're a millionaire CEO who showed up at my door with flowers. That's not normal." "No, it's not." He moved closer. "But nothing about us has been normal from the start. That's what made it real." "Real?" Jasmine laughed, but it came out bitter. "How can it be real when you've been hiding who you are?" "I haven't been hiding. I wanted you to know me first. Before you knew about the money and the business and all the complications that come with it." "That's not fair, Ethan. You got to decide what I knew about you. You controlled the information. How is that any different from Marcus controlling where I went and who I saw? The comparison clearly stung. Ethan took a step back. That's not the same thing, isn't it? You both kept me in the dark for your own reasons. You both decided what was best for me without asking. Jasmine, please, do you know what that woman at the bookstore said to me after you left? Jasmine's voice rose. She asked if I was dating you, and when I didn't answer, she laughed. Actually laughed. Like the idea of you being with someone like me was absurd. Someone like you, Ethan repeated, his jaw tight. You keep saying that. What does that mean? You know what it means. I'm a bookstore clerk. You're a CEO. I live in a tiny apartment with a roommate. You probably have a penthouse. We don't make sense. So what? We don't make sense on paper, but we make sense when we're together. He closed the distance between them. I don't care about paper. I care about how I feel when I'm with you. How do you feel? The question came out softer than she intended. Happy. Seen. Like I can breathe for the first time in years. His voice dropped. Like maybe I found something I didn't know I was looking for. Jasmine's eyes burned. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him so badly. What do you want from me? She whispered. I want to keep seeing you, keep getting to know you, keep feeling the way I feel when we're together. He reached for her hand, tentative. I want a chance, Jasmine. A real chance. No more secrets, no more holding back, just us figuring this out together. And when your family meets me, when your friends see us together, when people in your world realize you're dating a girl from the wrong side of town, then they'll realize how lucky I am. The sincerity in his voice broke something open in her chest. Jasmine felt tears slip down her cheeks before she could stop them. I'm scared, she admitted. I'm scared of getting hurt, of not being enough, of loving you and losing you. Ethan wiped away her tears with his thumb. I'm scared too, but I'd rather be scared with you than safe alone. They stood in her small living room, the evening sun casting long shadows across the floor. Everything felt fragile, breakable. No more secrets, Jasmine said finally. No more secrets. And if this doesn't work, if we can't make it work, you have to promise to be honest. Don't string me along just because you don't want to be alone. I promise. He pulled her closer, and she let him. Let herself lean into his chest and feel his heartbeat against her cheek. But I think we can make it work, if we both try. Jasmine wanted to agree, to say yes, we can do this. But doubt still lingered at the edges of her mind like shadows. She pulled back and walked to her kitchen counter. The box of chocolates still sat there, unopened. You know what's funny? She said, picking up the box. You brought these a week ago, and I still haven't tried one. Why not? Because once I open them, they're not perfect anymore. They're just chocolates, regular and ordinary. She turned to face him. Right now, they're still a promise, still potential. But if I open them and they're disappointing, then what? Ethan moved to stand beside her. What if they're amazing? What if they're not? Then we buy different chocolates next time. He took the box from her hands and set it down. Jasmine, nothing worth having is perfect. Not me, not you, not us. But that doesn't mean it's not worth trying. She looked at him, really looked at him, at the hope in his eyes and the vulnerability in his expression. Okay, she said, we'll try. He smiled, and the warmth in it made her chest ache. Can I take you to dinner Friday? He asked. Like a real date? Like a real date. I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something nice. How nice? Nice enough that you'll feel confident, not nice enough that you'll be uncomfortable. He touched her cheek gently. Just be yourself, that's all I want. After he left, Jasmine stood in her kitchen for a long time staring at the box of chocolates. She thought about opening them, about taking that first step into the unknown, but she left them sealed instead, not out of fear this time, out of hope. Some promises were worth keeping. Reaching out again. The week passed slowly. Jasmine worked her shifts at the bookstore, went to her night classes, and tried not to obsess over Friday's date. But her mind kept wandering to Ethan, to the way he'd looked at her, to the promises they'd made. Maya noticed, of course. You're smiling at your textbook, she said Thursday night, looking up from her laptop. That's either really good news, or you finally lost it. Jasmine hadn't even realized she was smiling. I'm just happy. Is that allowed? It's allowed. It's also suspicious. But Maya was grinning too. He must be something special. He is, I think. Jasmine closed her textbook. Is it crazy that I'm already falling for him? We barely know each other. Sometimes the heart knows before the brain catches up. Maya set aside her laptop. But seriously, Jazz, if something feels wrong, trust your gut. Don't ignore red flags just because you want this to work. I won't, I promise. But as Friday approached, Jasmine found herself believing more and more that Ethan was the real deal. He texted her every morning, called her at night just to hear her voice, sent her a playlist of songs that made him think of her, small gestures, simple things, but they mattered. Friday morning, a delivery arrived at the bookstore. Sarah brought the package to Jasmine during her break, her eyes dancing with curiosity. "Someone has an admirer," she sang. Inside the box were fresh flowers, sunflowers this time, bright and cheerful, and a handwritten note. "Looking forward to tonight. These made me think of you, warm and full of light." Jasmine pressed the note to her chest, ignoring Sarah's knowing smirk. "Girl, if you don't marry that man," Sarah teased. "It's been 2 weeks. And when you know, you know." Maybe Sarah was right. Maybe when you know, you know. That evening, Jasmine spent an hour getting ready. She chose a simple black dress that made her feel confident without trying too hard. Maya helped with her hair, pulling it back in a way that showed off her face. "You look beautiful," Maya said, stepping back to admire her work. "I look nervous." "That too, but mostly beautiful." Ethan arrived exactly at 7. He wore a dark suit that fit him perfectly, and his eyes lit up when Jasmine opened the door. "Wow," he breathed. "Is this too much?" Jasmine touched her dress self-consciously. "It's perfect. You're perfect." They drove to a restaurant on the riverfront, somewhere elegant but not stuffy. The kind of place where Jasmine felt special without feeling out of place. Over dinner, they talked about everything and nothing. Ethan told her about his day, a frustrating meeting, a problem solved, a small victory. Jasmine shared a story about a customer who'd fallen asleep in the classics section. They laughed easily, the conversation flowing like water. "Can I ask you something?" Jasmine said as they shared dessert. "Anything. Why were you alone that night? When you got my text, a man like you could have anyone. So why were you home alone reading messages from wrong numbers?" Ethan set down his fork. "Because I was tired of pretending, of showing up to parties where nobody cared about me, just what I could do for them, of dating women who saw my bank account before they saw my face." He met her eyes. "I wanted something real, even if I didn't know what that looked like anymore. And now I'm sitting across from the most amazing woman I've ever met, and she lets me be just Ethan, not CEO Ethan or rich Ethan or powerful Ethan, just me." He reached across the table and took her hand. "Do you know how rare that is?" Jasmine squeezed his fingers. "I think I'm starting to understand." After dinner, they walked along the river. The city lights reflected off the water, turning everything soft and dreamlike. Ethan took off his jacket and draped it over Jasmine's shoulders when she shivered. "Thank you," she said, "for tonight, for everything. Thank you for giving me a chance." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "I know this is fast. I know we're still figuring each other out, but I need you to know something." "What?" "I'm falling for you, Jasmine. Really falling. And it scares me because I haven't felt this way in years. Maybe ever." His hand came up to cup her cheek. "But I don't want to hold back anymore. Life's too short for that." Jasmine's breath caught. "I'm falling too." He kissed her then, soft and gentle at first, then deeper. Jasmine melted into him, her hands sliding up to his shoulders. The world around them faded until there was nothing but this moment, this kiss, this feeling of rightness that made everything else seem small. When they finally pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "I should get you home," Ethan murmured. "Yeah, you should." But neither of them moved for a long moment. The drive back to her apartment was quiet, but it was a comfortable quiet, a content quiet. Ethan walked her to her door, his hand warm in hers. "Can I see you tomorrow?" he asked. "I work until 3. I'll pick you up. We can do something simple, movies, coffee, whatever you want." "Whatever we want sounds perfect." He kissed her goodnight, soft and sweet, and Jasmine floated into her apartment on a cloud of happiness. Maya looked up from the couch, took one look at Jasmine's face and grinned. "That good, huh?" "Better." Jasmine collapsed beside her, still wearing Ethan's jacket. "Maya, I think this might be real. I think you might be right." For the first time in longer than she could remember, Jasmine let herself believe in happy endings. Family disapproval. Everything was perfect for exactly 3 days. Then Ethan's phone rang during their Sunday afternoon walk through the park. He glanced at the screen and his expression shifted, hardened. "I need to take this," he said apologetically. "It's my stepmother." Jasmine nodded and stepped away to give him privacy, but even from a distance she could tell the conversation wasn't pleasant. Ethan's shoulders tensed, his free hand clenched into a fist at his side. When he hung up, he stood for a moment with his back to her. Then he turned around, and Jasmine saw the strain in his face. "Everything okay?" she asked. "Not really." He ran a hand through his hair. "That was Clara, my stepmother. She wants to meet you." "That's good, right?" "No, it's not." Ethan started walking again, but his easy stride had become stiff, agitated. "Clara doesn't want to meet you because she's happy for me. She wants to meet you because she thinks you're using me." The words stung more than Jasmine expected. "She doesn't even know me. She knows you're not from my world. That's enough for her." "What did you tell her?" "That she's wrong. That you're amazing and she'll see that if she gives you a chance." He stopped walking and turned to face her. "But Clara doesn't give chances. She makes judgments and sticks to them." Jasmine felt something cold settle in her stomach. "Maybe I shouldn't meet her then. She'll just get worse if we avoid her. Trust me, I've tried that approach." Ethan took Jasmine's hand. "I know this is a lot, but Clara is family. She's difficult and cold and judgmental, but she's been in my life since I was 15. I can't just cut her out. I'm not asking you to. I'm just—" Jasmine swallowed hard. "I'm scared, Ethan. What if she's right? What if we are too different?" "We're not." He pulled her closer. "Listen to me. Clara has been trying to control my life since my father died. She thinks she knows what's best for me, who I should date, who I should marry, what kind of life I should live. But she's wrong. And I'm not letting her ruin this. When does she want to meet me? Next weekend. Dinner at her estate." Estate, of course, because regular houses weren't fancy enough. "Okay," Jasmine heard herself say. "I'll meet her." "Are you sure?" No. She wasn't sure at all, but she nodded anyway. "If she's important to you, then I'll try." Ethan kissed her forehead. "Thank you. And I'll be right beside you the whole time. I promise." But as they continued their walk, Jasmine couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted, that the perfect bubble they'd been living in had developed its first crack. That night, Ethan received another call from Clara. He stepped out onto Jasmine's small balcony to take it, and even through the closed door, Jasmine could hear raised voices. When he came back inside, he looked exhausted. "She wants you to know that she's doing a background check," he said flatly. "Oh, what?" "A background check. To make sure you don't have any criminal history or outstanding debts or whatever else she thinks might make you unsuitable." His voice was bitter. "I told her not to, but Clara does what she wants." Jasmine sat down on her couch, suddenly feeling very small. "This is crazy. We've been dating for 2 weeks. Why does she care so much?" "Because my father left me everything. Not her. She got a trust fund, a house, and a monthly allowance. But the company, the real money, that's all mine. And Clara thinks anyone who shows interest in me is just after that money." "Has she done this before? With other women you've dated?" Ethan hesitated. "Yes." "And what happened?" "They either ran away or showed their true colors. Either way, Clara was proven right." He sat beside Jasmine and took her hand. "But you're different. You were different before you even knew I had money. That doesn't mean she'll see it that way." "No, it doesn't." They sat in silence for a moment. Outside, the city hummed with its usual evening sounds. Cars passing, people talking, life continuing on, oblivious to the storm brewing in Jasmine's chest. "I won't let her break us," Ethan said quietly. "I promise you that." Jasmine wanted to believe him, but a small voice in the back of her mind whispered that promises were easy to make and hard to keep, especially when money and family got involved. A crisis of rent. Tuesday brought its own disaster. Jasmine came home from class to find an envelope taped to her door. The moment she saw it, her stomach dropped. A late rent notice. "No, no, no," she muttered, ripping it open. She'd forgotten to pay. Between moving and meeting Ethan and juggling school and work, she'd completely forgotten about rent. Now she owed late fees on top of the regular amount. Money she didn't have. Maya came home an hour later to find Jasmine sitting on the couch, staring at the notice. "What's wrong?" Maya asked immediately. "I forgot to pay rent, and now we owe extra, and I just paid tuition last week, so I'm completely broke until my next paycheck." "Jazz, why didn't you tell me? I can cover it." "No, this is my responsibility. I'm the one who forgot." Jasmine pressed her palms against her eyes, fighting back tears of frustration. "I'm so stupid." "You're not stupid. You're stressed and overwhelmed and juggling too much." Maya sat beside her. "Let me help. That's what roommates do." "I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking, I'm offering." They argued for another 10 minutes, but Maya was stubborn. She paid the extra fees from her savings, and Jasmine promised to pay her back as soon as possible. When Ethan called that evening, Jasmine almost didn't answer. She felt embarrassed, ashamed. Here she was, dating a millionaire, and she couldn't even pay her rent on time. But she picked up anyway because not answering felt worse than admitting the truth. "Hey," she said, trying to sound normal. "How was your day?" "Long, boring. Better now that I'm talking to you." She could hear the smile in his voice. "What about yours?" "Fine. Same old." "Jasmine." His tone changed. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. I'm just tired." "You're lying. I can hear it in your voice." She sighed. There was no point hiding it. "I forgot to pay rent. So now I owe late fees and I'm broke and I feel like an idiot." Silence on the other end. "How much do you need?" Ethan asked finally. "I don't need anything. Maya covered it. I'll pay her back." "Jasmine, please don't offer me money." Her voice came out sharper than she intended. "I know you want to help, but I need to handle this myself." "Okay." He paused. "Can I come over? Not to give you money, just to see you." She wanted to say no, to tell him she needed space to wallow in her embarrassment alone. But the truth was she wanted to see him, wanted his comfort, even if she couldn't accept his money. "Yeah," she said softly. "That would be nice." He showed up 30 minutes later with takeout and a small bag from the grocery store. "What's all this?" Jasmine asked as he set everything on her kitchen counter. "I thought we could cook together. Well, make spaghetti. Even I can't mess up pasta." He pulled out a box of noodles, a jar of sauce, and fresh bread. "Nothing fancy, just dinner." Jasmine felt her eyes get hot. "You didn't have to do this." "I wanted to." He moved closer, his hands gentle on her shoulders. "You're stressed and overwhelmed, and I can't fix that, but I can make you laugh. Or try to, anyway." And he did. They boiled noodles and heated sauce, and Ethan told terrible jokes that made Jasmine groan and laugh at the same time. He tried to show her how to make garlic bread and nearly set off the smoke alarm. By the time they sat down to eat, Jasmine's earlier stress had melted into something softer. "Thank you," she said as they ate, "for being here, for not making me feel bad about the rent thing." "Why would I make you feel bad?" "Because you probably spend more on coffee in a day than I make in a week." Ethan set down his fork. "Jasmine, look at me." She met his eyes. "Money doesn't make you more valuable or less valuable as a person. You're working your butt off to build a life you can be proud of. That's worth more than any bank account." He reached across the small table and took her hand. "I'm proud of you, even when things are hard, especially when things are hard." Jasmine squeezed his fingers, unable to speak around the lump in her throat. They finished dinner in comfortable silence. As Jasmine cleared the plates, she noticed Ethan looking at the box of chocolates on her counter, the ones he'd brought that first morning. Still unopened. "You really haven't tried those yet?" he asked. "Nope. Why not?" "I told you. They're a promise." She picked up the box and brought it to the table. "But maybe it's time." She broke the seal and opened the lid. Inside were rows of beautiful chocolates, each one perfectly crafted. She took one, dark chocolate with a caramel center, and bit into it. It melted on her tongue, rich and sweet. "Well?" Ethan watched her with an amused smile. "They're good. Really good." She held out the box to him. "Want one?" "I brought them for you." "I know, but I'm sharing them with you." She pushed the box closer. "Because that's what people do when they care about each other. They share the good stuff." Ethan took a chocolate, and something in his expression shifted, softened. They sat at her small kitchen table, eating chocolates and talking about nothing important, and Jasmine realized something. This was what love felt like. Not grand gestures or expensive gifts, just simple moments, shared sweetness, someone who showed up when things got hard and made you laugh when you wanted to cry. "I'm glad you sent that wrong number," she said suddenly. Ethan grinned. "Me too." Outside her window, the city kept moving, but inside her small apartment, everything felt still. Perfect. Right. For now, that was enough. The next few days passed in a blur of happiness. Ethan took Jasmine to the movies. They had picnics in the park. He showed up at the bookstore with coffee when her shift started early. Everything felt easy, natural. Maya noticed the change in her. "You're humming," she said one morning, "while doing dishes. That's disgustingly cute." Jasmine laughed. "I'm just happy. I can see that, and I'm glad." Maya paused, her expression growing serious. "But have you heard from Marcus lately?" The question made Jasmine's good mood falter. "No, why?" "I saw him yesterday, outside the building. He was just standing there, watching the door." "You're sure it was him?" "Positive. I was going to say something, but he left before I got close." Maya dried her hands on a towel. "I don't like it, Jazz. He's up to something. He's probably just being his usual creepy self. I'll be careful." But Maya's words stayed with her all day. When she left for work that afternoon, she found herself looking over her shoulder, checking shadows, feeling watched even when no one was there. Her shift at the bookstore was busy, which helped distract her. But when she stepped outside at closing time, Marcus was waiting. He leaned against the building across the street, arms crossed. The moment he saw her, he straightened. Jasmine's heart started racing. She pulled out her phone, ready to call Ethan, or the police, or anyone. But Marcus didn't move. He just stood there watching her with dark, angry eyes. She turned and walked quickly toward the bus stop, very aware of his footsteps behind her. Not close enough to threaten, just close enough to let her know he was there. "Jasmine," his voice carried across the evening air. She kept walking. "I know you can hear me." Her hands shook as she texted Ethan, "Marcus is following me. Bus stop on 5th. The reply came immediately. "On my way. Stay in public." "You can't ignore me forever," Marcus called out. Jasmine reached the bus stop where 3 other people waited. Safety in numbers. She positioned herself in the middle of the group and kept her eyes forward. Marcus stopped at the edge of the sidewalk, just watching, waiting. 10 minutes that felt like hours passed before Ethan's car pulled up. He got out quickly, his expression hard as stone when he saw Marcus. "You need to leave," Ethan said, moving to stand between Jasmine and her ex. "Or what?" Marcus smiled, but there was nothing friendly in it. "You'll have me arrested for what? Standing on a public sidewalk? For harassment? Stalking? Take your pick." "I'm not stalking anyone. I'm just concerned about an old friend." Marcus's eyes cut to Jasmine. "Making sure she knows what she's getting into." "She knows exactly what she's getting into," Ethan said. "Now leave, or I will call the police." "Go ahead." Marcus pulled out his own phone. "I'll tell them how a rich CEO is threatening a black man for trying to protect his ex-girlfriend. See how that plays in the press." The ugly truth of his words hung in the air. Marcus knew exactly what he was doing, how to twist the situation, how to make himself look like the victim. Ethan's jaw clenched. "Get in the car, Jasmine." She hurried to the passenger side, her hands still shaking. Through the window, she watched Ethan and Marcus face off. She couldn't hear what they were saying, but she saw the tension in both their bodies, the anger radiating off them like heat. Finally, Ethan turned and got back in the car. He pulled away from the curb without saying a word, his knuckles white on the steering wheel. "What did he say?" Jasmine asked quietly. "Nothing worth repeating." "Ethan, he said you're using me, that you're just a bookstore clerk who saw an opportunity and took it. That I'm a fool if I think someone like you could really love someone like me." The words came out bitter, angry. "He said a lot of ugly things." Jasmine felt tears burn her eyes. "You know none of that is true." "I know. But he didn't sound completely certain. It's just, he got in my head and I hate that. I hate that he can make me doubt something I know is real." "Do you? Doubt us?" Ethan pulled over suddenly, parking on a quiet side street. He turned to face her, and Jasmine saw the conflict in his eyes, the war between trust and fear. "No," he said finally, "I don't doubt us. But Marcus made me realize something. There are going to be people who don't believe in us, who think we're too different, or that you want my money, or that I'm some white savior playing at romance, and we have to be strong enough to not let them break us. Are we? Strong enough? I want to be." He reached for her hand. "But I need you to be honest with me. If this ever gets too hard, if my money or my family or the judgment becomes too much, tell me. Don't just disappear. Give me a chance to fight for us." "I will. I promise." Jasmine leaned across the console and kissed him softly. "We're in this together." He kissed her back and some of the tension in his shoulders eased. But as he drove her home, Jasmine couldn't shake the feeling that Marcus had accomplished exactly what he wanted. He'd planted seeds of doubt, and seeds had a way of growing in the dark. The getaway. By Friday, Jasmine was exhausted. Between work, school, and worrying about Marcus, she felt stretched too thin, like one more problem might break her completely. Then Ethan showed up at her apartment with a proposal. "Pack a bag," he said. "We're getting out of town for the weekend." "What? Ethan? I have work tomorrow." "I called your boss, told him you had a family emergency and needed the weekend off." At her shocked expression, he added quickly, I know, I shouldn't have done that without asking, but you need a break, and I need to spend time with you away from all of this stress." Jasmine wanted to be mad. She should be mad. He'd overstepped. But the idea of getting away, of leaving Marcus and Clara and all the pressure behind, even for just 2 days, sounded like heaven. "Where would we go?" "There's a little inn about 2 hours from here, up in the mountains. Hiking trails, quiet rooms, no phones except for emergencies." He moved closer, his eyes hopeful. "Just us." "What do you say?" Maya appeared from her bedroom, already grinning. "Say yes, you idiot. I'll cover anything you need here." "See, even Maya agrees." Jasmine looked between them, then at the tension in her own shoulders, the exhaustion in her bones. "Okay," she said, "let's do it." An hour later, they were on the road. Jasmine watched the city fade behind them, replaced by trees and open sky. With every mile, she felt lighter, freer. Ethan reached over and took her hand. "Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for kidnapping me. Is it really kidnapping if you packed your own bag?" They arrived at the inn just as the sun started setting. It was small and charming, exactly like something from a movie. Stone walls covered in ivy, a wooden porch with rocking chairs. Mountains rising in the distance, their peaks touched with gold. "It's perfect," Jasmine breathed. Their room was cozy, a big bed with a thick quilt, a fireplace, windows that looked out over the forest. Jasmine dropped her bag and immediately went to the window, drinking in the view. "I can't remember the last time I was somewhere this quiet," she said. Ethan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "That's the point. No noise, no distractions, just peace." They spent the evening exploring the inn's grounds, eating dinner in the small restaurant, talking by the fire. For the first time in weeks, Jasmine felt truly relaxed. That night, lying in the big bed with Ethan's arms around her, she whispered, "I could get used to this." "Me too." Saturday morning they woke early and went hiking. The trail wound through tall pines and over rocky streams. The air smelled clean and fresh, like rain and earth. "This is amazing," Jasmine said, breathing deeply. "I didn't know places like this actually existed." "City girl through and through?" "Guilty." She grinned at him over her shoulder. "But I think I like the mountains. They're quiet, peaceful, like you." "I'm not peaceful. I'm stressed and anxious and constantly worried about money." "That's on the outside." Ethan caught up to her, taking her hand as they walked. "Inside, you're steady, grounded. You know who you are and what you want." "That's peaceful." Jasmine had never thought of herself that way. But maybe he was right. Maybe beneath all the stress and struggle, there was something solid, something sure. They hiked for hours, stopping to rest on flat rocks and eat the sandwiches the inn had packed for them. At the highest point of the trail they could see for miles, rolling mountains, deep valleys, a ribbon of river cutting through the landscape. "I have something for you," Ethan said suddenly. "What?" He pulled a small box from his backpack. Not a ring box, Jasmine's heart skipped anyway, but a chocolate box, small and elegant, tied with a ribbon. She laughed. "You brought chocolates hiking." "Of course. It's kind of our thing now, isn't it?" He opened the box, revealing 6 perfect truffles. "I thought we could make it a tradition. Chocolates for important moments. And this is an important moment. Every moment with you is important." He held out the box. "But yeah, this one especially." Jasmine took a chocolate and Ethan did the same. They ate them slowly, savoring the sweetness while looking out over the mountains. "I need to tell you something," Ethan said after a moment. Jasmine's stomach tightened. "That sounds serious." "It is, sort of." He turned to face her fully. "I'm falling in love with you, Jasmine. Actually, I think I already have. And I know it's fast and maybe crazy, but I can't keep pretending I feel any other way." Her breath caught. "Ethan, you don't have to say it back. I just needed you to know that this is real for me, that you're not just someone I'm dating. You're—" He struggled for words. "You're everything I didn't know I needed." Jasmine felt tears sting her eyes. Happy tears this time. "I'm falling too. I didn't want to be. I tried not to be, but I am." He kissed her then, soft and deep, and Jasmine let herself fall into it, into him. Into the moment and the mountains and the terrifying beauty of letting someone see your whole heart. When they pulled apart, both of them were smiling. "Come on," Ethan said. "Let's head back before it gets dark." They hiked down as the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Back at the inn, they showered and changed for dinner. Over candlelight and wine, Ethan told her stories about his childhood, about his real mother, who died when he was young, about his father, who loved him but was always working, about feeling alone in a house full of staff. Jasmine shared her own stories, growing up in a crowded apartment with siblings who borrowed her clothes without asking, Sunday dinners that were loud and chaotic and full of love, learning to fight for her space and her dreams. "Your family sounds wonderful," Ethan said. "They are, but they don't always understand me. My dreams are bigger than they think is realistic for someone like me." She played with her wine glass. "My stepdad especially. He thinks I'm wasting my time with college, that I should just find a nice man to take care of me. And yet, here you are, taking care of yourself." Exactly. That night, they made love for the first time. slow and tender and full of whispered promises. Afterward, lying tangled in sheets with Ethan's heartbeat under her ear, Jasmine felt something click into place. This was what she'd been looking for. Not just romance or attraction or company, but partnership, connection. Someone who saw her completely and loved what he saw. "I love you," she whispered into the darkness. Ethan's arms tightened around her. "I love you too." Happiness Interrupted Sunday morning was perfect. They had breakfast in bed, pancakes and fruit and coffee that was better than it had any right to be. They packed slowly, neither of them wanting to leave their bubble of happiness. "I wish we could stay here forever," Jasmine said, zipping up her bag. "We could. I'll buy the inn. We'll live here and never deal with the real world again." She laughed, but part of her wished he was serious. The drive back was quieter than the drive up, both of them lost in thought. As the city came back into view, Jasmine felt reality settling back on her shoulders like a heavy coat. "Next weekend is dinner with Clara," Ethan said, voicing what they'd both been avoiding. "Are you still okay with that?" "Yes, no, maybe," Jasmine sighed. "I know I have to meet her eventually. Might as well get it over with. It's going to be fine, I promise." But the tightness in his voice told her he was worried too. He dropped her off at her apartment with a long kiss and a promise to call later. Maya was waiting inside, eager for details. "So, how was it?" "Perfect." Jasmine collapsed on the couch, exhausted and happy. "Like a dream. That good, huh?" "Better. We said we love each other." Maya squealed and threw her arms around Jasmine. "I'm so happy for you. He's a good one, Jazz. Hold on to him." "I plan to." But later that night, staring at the ceiling while Maya snored softly in the next room, Jasmine felt anxiety creeping back in. Next weekend, dinner with Clara. Meeting Ethan's family for the first time. The woman who thought Jasmine was a gold digger, who was doing background checks and making judgments before they'd even met. Jasmine touched her lips, still feeling the ghost of Ethan's kiss. She thought about the mountains and the chocolates and the way he'd looked at her when he said he loved her. Whatever happened with Clara, they'd face it together. At least that's what she told herself as she finally drifted off to sleep. The family dinner. The week passed too quickly. Every day brought Friday closer, and with it, Jasmine's growing dread. She tried on 7 different outfits Thursday night before Maya made her stop. "You look beautiful in all of them," Maya said firmly. "Clara is going to judge you no matter what you wear, so wear something that makes you feel confident and powerful." Jasmine settled on a deep blue dress, elegant but not flashy, her mother's pearl earrings, heels that made her 3 inches taller. When Ethan picked her up Friday evening, his eyes widened. "You look incredible," he said. "I look terrified." "That too, but mostly incredible." He kissed her cheek. "Remember, I'll be right beside you the whole time. If it gets too bad, we'll leave. Promise?" "Promise." The drive to Clara's estate took 40 minutes. With every mile, Jasmine's anxiety grew. The houses got bigger, the yards more manicured, everything screamed wealth and privilege and worlds Jasmine didn't belong to. Clara's house, mansion really, sat at the end of a long driveway, all stone and windows and intimidating architecture. Jasmine's entire apartment building could fit in just the front section. "Oh my God," she breathed. "I know it's excessive." Ethan squeezed her hand. "But it's just a house, just bricks and mortar, nothing to be scared of." Easy for him to say. He'd grown up in places like this. A butler, an actual butler, opened the door. He led them through a massive foyer into a dining room that looked like it belonged in a museum. Crystal chandeliers, oil paintings, a table that could seat 20 people. Clara stood at the far end, a glass of wine in her hand. She was beautiful in a cold, sharp way, perfectly styled blonde hair, designer clothes, diamonds at her throat and wrists. She looked at Jasmine the way someone might look at a stain on expensive carpet. "So you're Jasmine," Clara said. Not a question, a statement of fact. "Yes, ma'am. It's nice to meet you." Jasmine extended her hand. Clara looked at it for a long moment before shaking it briefly. Her grip was cold. "Ethan has told me very little about you. I had to do my own research." "Clara," Ethan warned. "What? I'm just being honest." "You know I value honesty, Ethan." They sat down to dinner, just the 3 of them at that enormous table. A staff member Jasmine didn't see brought out course after course, fancy food that Jasmine barely tasted, too nervous to enjoy it. Clara asked questions like they were interrogations. Where did Jasmine grow up? What did her parents do? How did she support herself? Each question felt like a trap. Jasmine answered honestly, keeping her voice steady, even as her hands shook in her lap. "A bookstore clerk," Clara said, making it sound like a disease. How quaint. I like my job, Jasmine said firmly, and I'm finishing my business degree. How practical. And expensive, I imagine. College these days costs a fortune. The implication was clear. Was Ethan paying for her education? Was that why she was with him? I have scholarships, Jasmine said, her voice harder now. And I work full-time to cover the rest. I don't need anyone to pay my way. Of course not. But Clara's smile suggested she didn't believe it. Ethan set down his fork, the sound sharp in the quiet room. That's enough, Clara. Enough what? I'm just getting to know your girlfriend. She said the word like it tasted bad. Surely you don't mind me asking a few questions about the woman you're spending so much time with? I mind you being rude. I'm not being rude. I'm being realistic. Clara turned her attention back to Jasmine. Tell me, dear, what do you think happens when relationships like yours encounter reality? When the novelty wears off and Ethan remembers he comes from a certain world, do you really think you fit into his life? Clara, let me finish, Ethan. This is important. Clara leaned forward, her eyes sharp. I've seen this before. Girls from modest backgrounds thinking they can fit into our world. They can't. The culture, the expectations, the scrutiny, it's too much. They either leave or they show their true colors. And usually those colors are green. That's enough! Ethan's voice echoed through the room. Jasmine stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Excuse me, I need to use the restroom. She hurried out of the dining room, barely holding back tears. A staff member pointed her toward a bathroom down the hall. She locked herself inside and pressed her hands against the marble sink, trying to breathe. The bathroom was bigger than her bedroom. Gold fixtures, fresh flowers. Even the soap probably cost more than her weekly grocery budget. This was Ethan's world, not hers. She heard raised voices from the dining room. Ethan and Clara arguing. She caught words like disrespectful and protecting you and not good enough. Jasmine looked at herself in the mirror. Her makeup was still perfect, her dress still elegant, but underneath she felt small, wrong, out of place. She couldn't do this. She couldn't fight Clara and Marcus and everyone else who thought she didn't belong. It was too much, too hard. She left the bathroom and walked quickly to the front door, ignoring the startled butler. Outside, the evening air was cool and clean. She started walking down the long driveway, her heels clicking against the pavement. Jasmine! Ethan ran after her, catching up halfway to the road. Where are you going? Home. I'm going home. She kept walking. Please, stop. Talk to me. What is there to say? She spun to face him and now the tears came. Your stepmother is right. I don't belong in your world. I don't know which fork to use or how to make small talk about country clubs or whatever else people like her expect. I'm just a bookstore clerk from a tiny apartment, and no amount of love is going to change that. I don't want you to change. You say that now, but what about later? When you're tired of explaining me to your friends? When you realize how much easier life would be with someone who already fits? She wiped at her tears angrily. I can't do this, Ethan. I can't fight this battle every single day. So you're just giving up? That's it? I'm being realistic. You're being scared. His voice broke. And I get it. I'm scared too, but I thought we were in this together. We are, I don't know. Jasmine felt exhausted, defeated. I just need some space to think. Can you take me home? Or I can call a car? Of course I'll take you home. He looked devastated. But Jasmine, please don't let Clara win. Don't let her make you think you're not enough. Because you are. You're everything. They drove back to the city in painful silence. When they pulled up in front of her building, Jasmine couldn't bring herself to look at him. I love you, Ethan said quietly. That hasn't changed. I love you too. But maybe that's not enough. She got out of the car and walked to her door without looking back. Inside her apartment, she found the empty chocolate box on her counter, the one they'd shared that night he'd made her dinner. She picked it up and threw it in the trash. Then she went to her room and cried until Maya came home and held her while she broke. Jasmine woke up Saturday morning with swollen eyes and a hollow chest. Maya had stayed up with her until past midnight, letting her cry and rage and question everything. What am I supposed to do? Jasmine had asked through her tears. Whatever your heart tells you, Maya had said. But don't make any decisions when you're this upset. Wait until you can breathe again. Now in the grey morning light, Jasmine still couldn't breathe properly. She checked her phone and found 7 missed calls from Ethan, 3 voicemails she couldn't bring herself to listen to, a dozen texts, each one more desperate than the last. Please talk to me. I'm so sorry about Clara. I love you. That's all that matters. Don't give up on us. She set the phone down and stared at her ceiling. Every cell in her body wanted to call him back, to say yes, Let's try again. But Clara's words echoed in her mind. Do you really think you fit into his life? The honest answer was no, she didn't fit, and she wasn't sure she ever would. 30 blocks away, Ethan sat in his car outside Clara's estate. He'd been there since dawn, working up the courage to go inside, to say what needed to be said. Finally, as the sun climbed higher, he got out and rang the bell. Clara answered in a silk robe, her hair perfect, despite the early hour. Ethan, this is unexpected. We need to talk. Come in then. She stepped aside, her expression unreadable. They sat in her formal living room, another space filled with expensive things and cold beauty. Ethan didn't waste time with pleasantries. What you did last night was unacceptable. Clara raised an eyebrow. I was protecting you. No, you were being cruel. There's a difference. That girl doesn't belong in your world, Ethan. You know it. I know it. Eventually, she'll know it too. Her name is Jasmine. And you're wrong about her. He leaned forward, his voice hard. She's the kindest, most genuine person I've ever met. She doesn't care about my money. She didn't even know who I was when we met. She just saw me. The real me. How romantic. Clara's tone was dry. And how long before the real world intrudes? Before she realizes what being with you really means? The scrutiny, the expectations, the judgment from people like me. Then I'll be there to help her through it. That's what love is, Clara. Support, partnership, not tearing someone down because they're different from you. I'm trying to save you from heartbreak. No, you're trying to control my life, just like you tried to control Dad's life before he died. Ethan stood, too agitated to sit still. Do you know what he told me before he passed? He said his biggest regret was not standing up to you more, not living his life on his own terms. Clara's face went pale. That's not true. It is. He was too sick to fight you at the end, but he made me promise something. Ethan met her eyes. He made me promise to be happy, to find someone who made me feel alive, to not let anyone, not even you, stop me from living fully. Ethan, I found that person, Clara. Jasmine makes me happy. She makes me want to be better, and I'll be damned if I let you destroy that, because you're scared of losing control. Silence filled the room. Clara stood slowly, her composure cracking just slightly. If you choose her, you're on your own, she said, her voice cold. I won't support this relationship. I won't welcome her into this family. And if it falls apart, when it falls apart, don't come crying to me. Fine. Ethan moved toward the door. But you're wrong, Clara. This isn't going to fall apart. Because unlike you, Jasmine and I actually care about each other. Not about money or status or control. Just each other. He left without looking back, his heart pounding. He'd burned that bridge. There was no going back now. But as he drove away from the estate, he felt lighter than he had in years. Some bridges needed to burn. Finding Jasmine Sunday passed in a blur of misery. Jasmine went through the motions, showered, ate, studied for class. But everything felt grey, empty. She ignored Ethan's texts, ignored his calls. She needed time to think, to figure out if love was really enough to bridge the gap between their worlds. Monday morning, she dragged herself to work. Sarah took one look at her face and brought her coffee without asking. Rough weekend? Sarah asked gently. You could say that. Want to talk about it? Not really, but thanks. Jasmine threw herself into work, shelving books, helping customers, organizing the new releases, anything to keep her mind busy, to not think about Ethan or Clara or the hollow ache in her chest. Around noon, rain started falling, soft at first, then harder, the kind of rain that made the whole world feel like it was crying. Jasmine stood at the front window, watching water stream down the glass. A few customers browsed the aisles behind her. The store was quiet, peaceful. Then the door opened. Ethan stood in the doorway, completely soaked. His hair dripped water onto his shoulders. His shirt clung to his skin. He looked like he'd walked through the storm instead of driving. Jasmine, he said, his voice rough. Everyone in the store turned to look. Sarah, the customers, even Mr. Peterson, the owner, poked his head out from the back office. Ethan, what are you doing? Jasmine whispered, very aware of all the eyes on them. I need to talk to you, please. He moved closer, leaving wet footprints on the floor. I messed up. I should have defended you better at dinner. I should have told Clara to back off the moment she started being rude. I should have protected you. Ethan, this isn't the place. I don't care. He stopped a few feet from her, water still dripping from his clothes. I've spent the last 3 years playing it safe, being careful, not making waves, and I'm done with that. Done hiding how I feel because someone might judge me. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you, Jasmine Carter. I love your strength and your dreams and the way you make me laugh. I love how you're finishing college while working full-time. I love how you opened your door to a stranger with flowers because you saw something good in me when you had every reason not to. His voice broke slightly. I love you, and I'm sorry I didn't say all of this to Clara's face when it mattered. Tears burned Jasmine's eyes. You can't just show up at my job and make a scene. Why not? You're worth making a scene for. You're worth everything. He took another step closer. I told Clara she was wrong about you. That if she couldn't accept you, she'd lose me. And I meant it. I'll choose you over her approval, over anyone's approval, every single time. Sarah made a small sound from behind the counter. When Jasmine glanced over, her co-worker had her hands pressed to her heart, clearly moved. This is so romantic, Sarah whispered to Mr. Peterson, who nodded in agreement. Jasmine. Ethan's voice pulled her attention back. I know my world is complicated. I know people like Clara are going to judge you. But I also know that you're the strongest person I've ever met. And if you'll let me, I'll stand beside you through all of it. I'll fight for us. Every day. I'm scared, Jasmine whispered. Me too. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. He held out his hand. Please, give us another chance. Jasmine looked at his hand, at his soaking wet clothes and desperate eyes, at the man who'd just embarrassed himself in front of strangers because he loved her. She thought about Clara's cold judgment, about Marcus's warnings, about all the voices telling her this wouldn't work. Then she thought about the mountains, about chocolates and coffee, and the way Ethan looked at her like she hung the moon, about how he made her laugh and supported her dreams and showed up when things got hard. She took his hand. Okay, she said softly. One more chance. Relief washed over Ethan's face. He pulled her close, not caring that he was soaking wet, not caring that everyone in the store was watching. He just held her like she was the most precious thing in the world. Thank you, he breathed against her hair. From behind them, the customers started clapping. Sarah actually cheered. Jasmine pulled back, laughing despite her tears. You're completely drenched. I know. I parked 3 blocks away and walked. For dramatic effect. You're ridiculous. I'm in love. She kissed him then in front of everyone, not caring who saw or what they thought. Because Ethan was right. Love was worth making a scene for. The X returns. That evening, Jasmine floated home on a cloud of happiness. She and Ethan had talked for hours after her shift ended. Really talked. About fears and expectations, and how to handle his family. About boundaries and communication, and making sure they were on the same page. It felt good. Right. Like they'd turned a corner. She was still smiling when she reached her apartment building and found Marcus waiting outside. Her good mood evaporated instantly. What do you want? She asked, her voice flat. 5 minutes. That's all. Marcus looked different, tired, defeated. Please, Jas. Against her better judgment, she nodded, but she stayed on the street in public view, ready to run if needed. I was wrong, Marcus said, about everything. The way I treated you, the things I said about Ethan, all of it. Jasmine crossed her arms. Okay, I've been watching you these past few weeks, seeing how happy you are with him, and I realized something. He looked down at his hands. You never smiled like that with me, not even at the beginning. Marcus, let me finish. Please. He took a breath. I was controlling and jealous, and I tried to make you smaller so I could feel bigger. That's not love. That's not even close to love. And I'm sorry. I'm really, genuinely sorry. Jasmine studied his face, looking for signs of manipulation, but all she saw was honest regret. Thank you for saying that, she said carefully, but it doesn't change anything. I know. I'm not asking for another chance. I'm trying to let go, to accept that you've moved on, that you're happy. He managed a weak smile. And that I need to figure out why I thought treating you badly was okay. I hope you do. Figure it out, I mean, because you deserve to be happy too. And so does whoever you date next. Marcus nodded. For what it's worth, I think Ethan is good for you. I saw him at the bookstore today. Someone showed me a video. At her surprised look, he added, yeah, it's already online. And watching him fight for you like that, that's what you deserve. Someone who'll make a fool of himself because he loves you that much. Jasmine felt her throat tighten. Thank you. That means a lot. Take care of yourself, Jas. You too, Marcus. He walked away, and this time Jasmine believed he wouldn't be back. He'd finally let go, finally accepted that they were over. She went upstairs feeling lighter than she had in months. Maya was cooking dinner, singing off-key to the radio. You're in a good mood, Jasmine observed. I have news. Maya spun around, grinning. I got promoted. More money, better hours, and I don't have to work weekends anymore. Maya, that's amazing. Jasmine hugged her tight. We need to celebrate. We will. But first you need to tell me what happened. I saw the video. What video? Maya pulled out her phone and showed her. Someone had filmed Ethan's speech at the bookstore and posted it online. It already had thousands of views and hundreds of comments. This is the most romantic thing I've ever seen. If a man doesn't love you like this, he's not the one. I'm not crying. You're crying. Jasmine watched herself take Ethan's hand, saw the relief on his face, saw them kiss while strangers applauded. Oh my God, she breathed. Right? You're basically famous now. Maya laughed. That man really loves you. Yeah, he does. Jasmine smiled. And I really love him. So what happens now? Now we figure it out. Together. The wrong number letter. 3 days later, Jasmine came home from class to find something outside her door. Flowers. Sunflowers again. Bright and happy. A new box of chocolates. And an envelope. Her hands shook as she picked everything up and went inside. Maya wasn't home yet. Still at work, enjoying her new promotion. Jasmine set the flowers in water, placed the chocolates on the counter beside the old box she'd retrieved from the trash. Then she opened the envelope. Inside was a letter in Ethan's handwriting. Dear Jasmine, I've started this letter a dozen times and thrown it away each time. Because how do you put into words what someone means to you? How do you explain that they changed your life without sounding dramatic? But I'm going to try. Before you, I was going through the motions. Working, sleeping, existing. I had everything money could buy and nothing that mattered. I was surrounded by people and completely alone. Then you sent a text to the wrong number, and suddenly everything changed. You opened your door to a stranger because you saw something good in me. You shared your coffee and your stories and eventually your heart. You didn't care about my money or my company or my last name. You just cared about me. Do you know how rare that is? How precious? I know these past few weeks have been hard. I know Clara hurt you. I know Marcus planted doubts. I know there are 100 reasons why we shouldn't work on paper. But love isn't about paper. It's about moments. Like coffee in your tiny kitchen. Like chocolates on a mountain trail. Like you kissing me in a bookstore while strangers cheered. I love you, Jasmine. Not because you're perfect, but because you're real. Not despite our differences, but because of them. You challenge me. You ground me. You make me want to be better. I'm not promising this will be easy. My world is complicated and comes with baggage, but I'm promising to fight for us, to choose you, every single day. This time, I hope I'm sending this to the right person. All my love, Ethan P.S. The chocolates are from that little shop you mentioned loving. I hope they're as good as you remember. Jasmine read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Then she grabbed her keys and ran. Vulnerable reunion. Ethan's penthouse was 40 minutes away by bus. Jasmine made it in 30, practically running the last few blocks. The doorman looked surprised when she burst into the lobby, breathless and disheveled. I need to see Ethan Hale, she gasped. Is he expecting you? No, but tell him Jasmine is here, please. The doorman made a call. A minute later, he nodded toward the elevator. Top floor. The ride up felt like it took forever. Jasmine tried to catch her breath, to figure out what she was going to say, but her mind was blank, except for one word, yes. The elevator opened directly into Ethan's apartment. He stood in the middle of the living room, looking shocked. Jasmine, what are you? She crossed the space between them and kissed him, hard, desperate, pouring everything she felt into that kiss. When she pulled back, they were both breathing heavily. I read your letter, she said, and you're right about all of it. I was scared and I let that fear almost ruin the best thing that's ever happened to me. She took his hands in hers. I love you, Ethan. Not your money, not your company, just you. The man who shows up with flowers and makes terrible jokes and fights for me, even when I'm too scared to fight for myself. Jasmine, let me finish. She squeezed his hands. I can't promise I won't get scared again, or that dealing with people like Clara won't be hard, but I can promise to talk to you when I'm struggling, to trust you, to choose us, even when it's difficult. Is that a yes? Hope lit up his face. You're saying yes? I'm saying yes to all of it, to us. He lifted her off her feet and spun her around, both of them laughing. When he set her down, his eyes were bright with unshed tears. I need to ask you something, he said, suddenly serious. Why me? Really? You could have anyone. Someone without complicated family or too much money or a world that judges. So why choose me? Jasmine touched his face gently. Because you see me, the real me, not who I should be or who I could be, just who I am. And you love that person, she smiled. Because you make me feel safe and challenged and excited all at once. Because you showed up at my door with flowers for no reason, except that you were lonely and I sounded happy. Because you're brave enough to be vulnerable. I'm terrified right now, he admitted. Me too, but we're terrified together. That counts for something. He kissed her again, soft and sweet. Move in with me. What? I know it's fast, but I don't want to waste any more time. Move in with me. Bring Maya if you want. This place is huge. We can make it ours. His words tumbled out quickly. Or we can find somewhere new, somewhere that's just us. Whatever you want. Just say yes. Jasmine laughed. Can I at least think about it? Of course, take all the time you need, minutes, hours. He grinned. But for the record, I really hope you say yes. I really hope I do too. They spent the evening on his couch, talking and planning and dreaming about the future. At some point, Ethan ordered takeout. They ate straight from the containers, Jasmine curled against his side. I meant what I said in the letter, Ethan murmured. I'll choose you every day. I know. And I'll choose you back. Outside the huge windows, the city sparkled with lights. But inside, everything felt warm and right, and exactly where it should be, building a future. 2 months later, Jasmine stood in the middle of their new apartment. Not Ethan's penthouse, but a place they'd chosen together. Smaller than his old place, but still spacious, with a room for Maya and a real kitchen, and windows that let in the morning sun. Where do you want this? Maya asked, carrying a box labeled books. Second bedroom. That's going to be my office. Jasmine directed traffic as movers brought in furniture. Ethan appeared in the doorway with 2 cups of coffee and that box of chocolates from her counter. Thought you might need this. Caffeine and sugar. You know me so well. She took the coffee and a chocolate, savoring both. They'd spent the past 2 months figuring out how to blend their lives. Jasmine had cut back her hours at the bookstore to focus on finishing her degree. Ethan had been teaching her about his business, preparing her for when she graduated, and wanted to open her own bookstore. They'd had dinners with Jasmine's family. Loud, chaotic, wonderful dinners, where everyone had opinions about everything. Clara had sent a single text message. I suppose if you must pursue this relationship, I won't stand in your way. But don't expect my blessing. It wasn't much, but it was something. This is really happening, Jasmine said, looking around at the half-unpacked boxes and mismatched furniture. We're really doing this. Having second thoughts? Never. She kissed him quickly. Just happy. Really, really happy. Maya emerged from the hallway, grinning. My room is huge. I can finally have a desk and a bed and everything. See? Everyone wins. Ethan wrapped an arm around Jasmine's waist. Now we just have to unpack all these boxes. We have time, Jasmine said. Let's order pizza and take a break. They spent the afternoon eating pizza on the floor, laughing as they tried to assemble furniture with confusing instructions. Maya told terrible jokes. Ethan pretended to understand the furniture manual and made everything worse. Jasmine supervised and took photos of every moment. Later, after Maya went to bed in her new room, Jasmine and Ethan stood on their small balcony. The city stretched out below them, alive and glowing. Thank you, Jasmine said softly. For what? For not giving up on us. For fighting for me. For showing up in the rain and making a fool of yourself. She leaned against him. For loving me enough to let me be scared, and still waiting for me to find my courage. You've always had courage, you just needed to remember it. He kissed the top of her head. Besides, I'm the one who should be thanking you, for taking a chance on a stranger with flowers, for seeing past the money to the man underneath, for choosing me. I'll always choose you, and I'll always choose you back. They stood together in the darkness, wrapped in each other's arms, and Jasmine felt something settle deep in her chest. Peace. Certainty. Home. This was where she belonged, not because of the apartment or the city or even the man beside her, but because she'd chosen it. Chosen him. Chosen them. And that made all the difference. The right address. 6 months later, Jasmine graduated from college. She walked across the stage in her cap and gown, diploma in hand, while Ethan and Maya cheered so loudly they embarrassed her. Her mother was there too, crying happy tears. Even her stepdad came, looking uncomfortable but proud. You did it, Ethan said afterward, hugging her tight. We did it. Because he'd helped her study, had quizzed her on business terms, and listened to her practice presentations. Had believed in her when she wanted to quit. That evening they had dinner in their apartment, just the two of them. Maya had graciously made herself scarce, claiming plans with friends. Jasmine came home from her graduation party to find the apartment transformed. Candles everywhere, music playing softly, the table set with actual plates and silverware instead of their usual takeout containers. "What's all this?" she asked, stunned. "A celebration for my incredibly smart, hard-working girlfriend who just graduated with honors." At her place setting sat a bouquet of sunflowers and a box of chocolates. The good kind, the fancy kind he'd brought that very first morning. Jasmine laughed. "You and your chocolates. It's our thing." Ethan pulled out her chair. "Besides, you never know when a good chocolate might save the day." They ate dinner, pasta that Ethan had somehow managed to make without burning anything. They talked about Jasmine's plans to start looking for bookstore locations, about Ethan's work, about Maya's upcoming promotion. Normal things, everyday things, the kind of things that made up a life. After dinner, as they cleared the dishes, Ethan caught Jasmine's hand. "I need to say something." Her heart skipped. "Okay. That first morning, when I showed up at your door, I didn't know what I was looking for. I just knew I was lonely, and your text made me feel less alone." He pulled her closer. "But now I know exactly what I found. I found home, I found love, I found you." "Ethan, I'm not finished." He smiled nervously. "You changed my life, Jasmine. You made me believe in second chances and wrong numbers and fate. You made me brave enough to stand up to Clara, strong enough to fight for what matters, happy enough to wake up smiling every morning. I feel the same way about you. Good, because I have a question." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small box. Jasmine's breath caught. "This isn't a ring," Ethan said quickly. "Not yet. Not until you're ready. But it is a promise." He opened the box to reveal a delicate gold key on a chain. A promise that wherever we go, whatever we do it together. That this is our home, our life, our future. Tears streamed down Jasmine's face. "It's perfect." He fastened the necklace around her neck, his fingers gentle. "At least I got the address right this time." She laughed through her tears. "The right wrong address. The best mistake I ever made." They kissed then, long and deep and full of promise. Outside their windows, the city kept moving. But inside their apartment, their home, time stood still. Later they sat on the couch with the box of chocolates between them, taking turns choosing one, guessing the flavors, laughing when they were wrong. "Tell me something," Jasmine said. "That very first morning when you decided to show up at my door, did you have any idea what would happen?" "None. I thought you'd slam the door in my face." Ethan took her hand, threading their fingers together. "But I was so lonely, so tired of pretending to be okay, and your text, it sounded so happy. I wanted to feel that too, even if just for a moment. And now I feel it every day, because of you." Jasmine rested her head on his shoulder, the key necklace warm against her skin. "I can't believe this all started with a wrong number. The universe works in mysterious ways, or I'm just terrible at double-checking phone numbers." "That too," he kissed her forehead. "But I'm grateful for it, for all of it. The wrong text, the awkward coffee, the chocolates, the drama, everything that brought us here. Me too." They sat in comfortable silence, eating chocolates and watching the city lights twinkle outside their window. The future stretched ahead of them, uncertain, exciting, full of possibility, but whatever came next, they'd face it together. "Hey, Ethan?" "Yeah?" "I love you, just in case you forgot." He pulled her closer, his smile bright enough to rival the city lights. "I love you too, and I'll never forget." Outside, the world kept turning. People lived and loved and made mistakes. Some mistakes led nowhere. Others led to everything. Jasmine's had led her here, to this apartment, to this man, to this life that felt like it had been waiting for her all along, all because she'd texted her new address to the wrong number. Or maybe, just maybe, it had been exactly the right number all along. Epilogue. 1 year later, Jasmine stood outside her new bookstore. The sign above the door read Carter and Hale Books in elegant gold letters. "You ready?" Ethan asked, holding the door key. "More than ready." She took the key and unlocked the door, stepping into the space they'd spent months renovating. Wooden shelves lined every wall. Cozy chairs invited people to sit and read. A small coffee bar in the corner filled the air with the scent of fresh beans. Sunlight streamed through big windows, making everything glow. "It's perfect," Jasmine breathed. "You're perfect." Ethan handed her a familiar-looking package. She unwrapped it to find flowers. Sunflowers, of course, and a box of chocolates tied with a ribbon. On top sat a card. "Congratulations on your grand opening. I'm so proud of you. Here's to new beginnings, right addresses, and forever. All my love. Jasmine threw her arms around his neck. Thank you for everything, for believing in me, for helping make this dream real. Our dream, he corrected. I'm just lucky I get to be part of it. Maya burst through the door with an armload of balloons. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was terrible, but oh my God, this place looks amazing. Behind her came Jasmine's family, her mother, her siblings, even her stepdad, who looked around with barely concealed surprise. You did good, kid, he said gruffly. Real good. The words shouldn't have mattered as much as they did, but they did. They really did. Even Clara showed up, arriving late and staying on the edges of the celebration. But she was there, and when Jasmine caught her eye, Clara gave a small nod. Not quite approval, but acceptance. It was enough. As the day went on, customers filtered in. Some bought books, others just browsed. Everyone commented on the warm, welcoming atmosphere. You should be proud, Ethan said, watching Jasmine help a customer find the perfect book. This is all you. It's all us, she corrected. I couldn't have done it without you. That evening, after everyone left and the store was quiet, Jasmine and Ethan sat in the reading nook by the window. The box of chocolates sat between them, half empty now. Remember when you brought chocolates to my old apartment? Jasmine asked. And I refused to open them. How could I forget? You said they were a promise. They were. They still are. She took his hand. Every box you've given me has been a promise that you'd show up, that you'd stay, that we'd figure it out together. And have we? Figured it out? I think we're getting there. She smiled. One chocolate at a time. He kissed her then, soft and sweet, and Jasmine tasted sugar on his lips. Outside, the city moved at its usual frantic pace. But inside the bookstore they'd built together, everything was calm, peaceful, right. I have something for you too, Jasmine said suddenly. She pulled a small box from her pocket and handed it to him. Ethan opened it carefully. Inside was a key, not decorative like the one he'd given her, but real, functional. It's for here, Jasmine explained, for the store, because this is ours, our dream, our future, and I want you to have a key to all of it. Jasmine, I know we're not married. I know we're still figuring things out, but I want you to know that I'm all in, completely, forever. She took a deep breath. You're my home, Ethan. You have been since that first morning when you showed up at the wrong address with flowers and chocolates, and this ridiculous hope that I might let you in. It was the right address, he said, his voice thick. Maybe not the one you meant to send, but definitely the right one. Yeah, it was. They sat together as evening turned to night, eating chocolates and making plans for the bookstore, for their life, for everything yet to come. And when Jasmine finally locked up for the night, she looked at the sign above the door, Carter and Hale Books, and smiled. She'd sent her address to the wrong number, and somehow, miraculously, found her way home. The end.